What up, people? Your friendly neighborhood Monomachos here, speaking to you from stately Monomachos Manor. As you can tell from the post above, there are several thoughts that are going to animate this particular vlog, but I'm going to tie them all together, or at least I'm going to try. And I've decided to do this because rather than address a lot of my correspondence directly, I can maybe bring in this overarching theme and tie it all together with a little pretty bow on top. Anyway, so let's get right to it. Obviously, I think we may be on the precipice of a severe internal conflict. Whether it's an actual civil war, I don't know. I kind of doubt it, but it's on the horizon. It's certainly within the mental landscape, and I'm not the only one who believes it. I think many people believe it. How do we going to start this? How do I see it? Well, John Brennan, the former CIA director under Obama, who committed perjury before Congress, but who gives a crap, put out a tweet several days ago. It said, when the full extent of, and he's addressing President Trump, when the full extent of your venality, moral turpitude, and political corruption becomes known, you will take your rightful place as a disgraced former demagogue. See, I lost it here. As a disgraced former demagogue, who will take your rightful place in the dustbin of history, and you will be rightly forgotten. And I'm paraphrasing. Okay. Now, I could address each and every one of his comments directly. When we talk about moral turpitude and venality, well, he's a businessman. Moral turpitude compared to Obama, who's a closeted homosexual, compared to Clinton, who is a rapist. I won't even go to FDR, who slept with one of his cousins. Okay? Let's leave that aside, shall we? What he's doing is he's marshaling the forces of what's left of the deep state, the anti-Trump deep state, to let them know that we need to take this clown, this venal bozo, down. Now think about that. He's threatening the sitting president of the United States, a man who was duly elected in an election that everybody thought was more or less fair. What wasn't fair was the nominating process that got Hillary Clinton nominated over Bernie Sanders. I've alluded in the previous vlog how the election really was rigged, but it was rigged against Trump. But something happened. I believe divine intervention. Who knows? I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. But something happened that he won. We have to accept it. You may not like it. Fine. I didn't like Obama's election. But when he walked into the room, if I was there, and I wasn't, but let's say, I stood up. If I was in the military and he says, okay, we're going to do a drone strike over Syria, I would salute. He's the commander-in-chief. We have a constitutional republic. Maybe not for long, though. Takes me to my second point on state nullification. I've got it up there in the title. Okay. Jefferson Beauregard Sessions, our Attorney General, formerly a senator from Alabama, you can't get a more southern name than Jefferson Beauregard Sessions, went to Sacramento and spoke to the combined audience of peace officers and sheriffs, and told them that state nullification has been settled once and forever by the war between the states. And if you don't believe me, go to Gettysburg and look at all the tombs there, all the graves. Think of the irony. Here's a southerner from the deep south telling this blue state, you guys may not like it, but you got to abide by the law. You got to abide by the federal Constitution. That's the way it is, folks. This is so delicious. The irony is just so delicious. For me, who has decided Southern sympathies, I really like seeing these Yankees hoist on their own petard. It's just wonderful. Now, it's kind of a win-win because obviously, if this goes to the Supreme Court, and it'll take months, if not years, it's going to wind its way through the federal appellate process, maybe go directly to the Supreme Court. Trump will win, probably 7-2, probably 9-0. I mean, this is the plain text of the Constitution. Immigration is the law of the land, and it is the purview and the province of the executive, of the chief executive of these United States, the commander-in-chief. Several years ago, when Jan Brewer was governor of Arizona, wonderful state, by the way, I love that place. When she was governor of Arizona, she started enforcing the immigration laws because the federal government under Obama was not. Well, she was taken to the woodshed. Not rightly so, I believe, but I understand the principle. Obama said, no, that's my job. Now, he's not doing his job, so somebody's going to do the job, but regardless, there you go. Alrighty. The point stands. Now, as somebody who is committed to states' rights, and why I believe California will lose in the end against Trump, is because it's kind of a win-win situation. It's a win for the Trumpster if California loses and he gets to enforce our border policies, our immigration policies, which is only neat and just. But let's say he loses. On the off chance he loses, well then, you know, every state in the union is going to come up and say, hey, you know, this thing about anal marriage, we're going to strike that. We don't agree with that. Or this Title IX thing that you've got at Norma State University that you're shoving down our throats and it's hiking up the tuition and what the legislature has to pay. We're going to do away with that. No, nobody wants to watch women's lacrosse. Okay, nobody wants to watch men's lacrosse for that matter. So all they care about is our football program and maybe our basketball program. That's it. That's all we're going to do. You don't like it? Too bad. Hasta la vista, baby. And when the liberals, who may gain control someday in the future, try to enforce it, the governor of Oklahoma or Nebraska or Alabama is going to say, yeah, you and what National Guard, dude? So, as far as I'm concerned, things are just springing out all over in a wonderful way for Trump, for constitutional republicanism, for the rule of law. But wait, didn't I say that we may be on the verge of a civil war? Yeah, we may very well be. What we saw in Austin recently, I think last night, overnight, the person who was the alleged bomber was accidentally blown up or killed. I don't know what the details are of it yet. We're going to be seeing more of this kind of stuff. So far, all we're told is that he's a white male of 24 years old. My decoder ring, my spider sense tingles when I hear white male, because usually it means he's a Muslim terrorist, who technically are white. Okay? So we're going to see how this plays out. Okay? Having said that, we're going to be seeing more of this kind of stuff. As they like to say in the hood, shit's about to get real, folks. Pardon my French. And the inability of the left to accept the fact that they lost the election is making them even more and more unhinged. Are we going to see an actual civil war? I think I said civil strife, civil violence. Below, there's a link by Kurt Schlichter, who is turning out to be one of my favorite writers, and I like the way he thinks. You know, he sees a meta-narrative, and I like to think I do too. Kurt Schlichter wrote about something called the Civil War II and why it looks bad for the blue states. I'm paraphrasing. I agree in principle with pretty much everything he wrote, except for the first part, which he said that the first Civil War, which wasn't a civil war, by the way, was done so that the South could impose their degraded view of humanity on the rest of the country. That's not true. Okay, that's not true. The South just wanted to secede. It was a war of independence, every much as it was a war of independence for our founding fathers to break away from their mother country. They were all Englishmen, mind you. Okay? So, I disagree with his fundamental premise on that point. But everything that follows beyond that, beneath that, is right on the money. I'll let you read it for yourself. In the meantime, we're going on 10 minutes. Pax Vobiscum, adios, and let's try to love one another.